With data being a more and more regulated thing, I thought it'd be interesting to go over the laws in Mongolia and how they impact people here. As many will be wondering, as many look towards, there is a GDPR-based system. And of course, with Europe being one of the more intense data privacy ideals, there is a new law signed into effect in 2021, but really being enforced now in 2026, where realistically a lot of the data that is being used actually has to be here in Mongolia. And of course, when you look at this being the case, you realize that a lot of the countries are acting like what happened prior to World War I, where they are flexing their sovereignty. This is something that is very beneficial to you, and especially if you want to learn about the best jurisdiction for you and where would be the best. I have made that easy. I have given you a Google Forms link down in the description where you can fill it out, learn about the sovereign one-pager, and it is $350 for the first 10 people. Now, with that said, of course, here is the full rest of the video. When you think of data privacy, you often think of the EU, as, of course, they are the most likely to promote data privacy. But what many of you may be surprised to hear is the EU, except as of recently, has not been particularly good at any of the privacy that they so proclaim. And especially when it comes to Google, for instance, which is, of course, the platform I'm on, GDPR does not do anything to protect you from Google taking data, which is perfectly fine. You have chosen to use their service. You should be looking through their terms of service. That said, even Google is having issues with these new laws being put into place. Microsoft is having issues. Why? Because the Cloud Act is essentially making it so that the move towards individual states protecting data, individual states saying, no, we're not going to allow you to have a bunch of servers in the United States and use our markets, have data here. That has been railed extremely hard as of recent. And it's with this movement towards data sovereignty that in 2021, Mongolia said you had to at least have some level of data in Mongolia. You had to process data in Mongolia. Now, this doesn't mean that you ultimately cannot move that data offshore eventually, right? And I think this is something that a lot of people get mixed up. Uzbekistan is one of the most private jurisdictions. It wholly wants you to have data in Uzbekistan if it is an Uzbek national. However, if it isn't an Uzbek national and or if they are collecting data on Uzbek nationals outside of Uzbekistan, they don't care. This is fundamentally different to the law in Mongolia, where they say, okay, you can ship data off, but first it needs to be processed and it needs to be sanitized here in Mongolia. And so this is something that, of course, it doesn't seem like a large distinction, but of course it very much is. And as I spend more time here in Ulaanbaatar, which I'm flying out tomorrow actually, to go to Korea, South Korea, the thought that you have to somehow worry about Mongolian data privacy laws in the same way is incorrect. And it's the same in the EU. The EU recently said You have to sanitize data in the EU. You can send it to your servers in the United States, but we're going to have a talk about what our citizens' data can and cannot be sent back. This is something that, of course, Google and Microsoft and any large company, and maybe your company, is looking at and saying, I don't know how to fix this. If your business and or life are aligned with this sovereign strategy, then I would be applying right now in the forms link below to get a jurisdictional one-pager as the next step for you to achieve operational stability, freedom, and living your life where your money matters. Now, back to the breakdown. I've been doing just this. I've been fixing these problems for the better part of 5 years. I know the system. I know what they want. I know how they want it. And so I've worked with companies in the past who are looking to do sole data, right? I've worked with DigitalOcean indirectly, but I've worked with DigitalOcean on creating systems that allow essentially data localization. And this is something that Mongolia is doing and the world is following realistically. Mongolia was one of the first data localization laws in the world, and it happens right during 2020. When I look at Mongolia and I say that it's becoming a digital haven, this is what I mean, right? That Mongolia has the foresights, and they're a few steps ahead. What they lack is the strong jurisdictional propensity to enforce these measures. Now, what is realistically happening right now in Uzbekistan, in Kazakhstan, in Indonesia, in Vietnam, they're just shutting it off, right? They're shutting down YouTube, they're shutting down Google. Now, they can't really shut down, but they're pushing alternatives to Google. And this is something that Google has been scrambling to fix. And of course, if there is any Google execs out there, heading to Germany to talk with you. So be ready for that. And of course, if you're looking on the YouTube channel, I'll be updating you about what the consultancy, right, and of what happens with Google. Most of it will likely be under NDA. I do have some direct tie-ins to Google, so I can't say everything. But, of course, if you're looking for someone who can help you with these new data laws, and you're looking at what the shift in Mongolia is, or the shift in Uzbekistan is, feel free to go down into the description, click on that Google Forms link, sign for the jurisdictional one-pager, and we'd be happy to help you. Of course, it's $350, and then you can get consulting after the fact. With that said, if you like this video, feel free to like it. If you really like this video, feel free to share it with your friends. If you are looking for a way to join me on this journey of internationalization and globalization, feel free to subscribe. With that said, this has been the Traveling Report, signing off.